Welcome to the next section of Introduction to Operations Management. From here onwards, we will be talking about processes, different types of processes, and uh, how it helps us in basically different operations. Process basically a process can be defined as a sequence of interdependent and linked procedures which at every stage consume one or more resources to convert inputs into outputs. When we talk about resources, as we have discussed earlier, we are referring to employee, time, energy, machines, money, and anything which is basically being used as two types of resources, transformed and transforming. Both will come into consideration. So these resources will act as inputs, which will get converted into outputs. So every process will convert an input into a desired output. Every process can be seen as a sequence of interdependent and linked activities or procedures. So every stage of a process will act as a input to the next stage process. So output of every stage will act as input to the next stage process, and the input for the stage for the current stage process will be actually an output of the previous stage process. So they are actually here we can say that processes are basically connected to each other at the end. These are sub processes which are connected to each other, which comprise a part of an entire process. A process can be defined as a logical series of related transactions that converts inputs to results or outputs. This definition has been modified so that it suits even services also. So not only just the product will be an output, but even an outcome can be an output. Outcome in terms of a satisfied customer or a serviced customer. Processes can be broadly categorized into three. One is a management process, operational process, or support processes. Management processes, they govern the operation of the system in terms of corporate governance, strategic management, and so on. Operational processes are those which constitute the core business and create a primary value stream. For example, like purchasing, manufacturing, marketing, and sales. Support processes are those which are basically supporting your core processes. For example, accounting, HR, technical supports. These are some of the support processes. Now, role of basically the processes which are being considered under core processes and support processes, they also change depending upon the nature of the business that an organization is involved into. For example, when we talk about HR functions cannot be can be actually looked at as a support processes, but when we talk about an HR consultancy, there it will become a core process. When we talk about an organization which is involved into offering accountancy services to another firm, their accountancy or accounting will not for in those kind of organizations, it will be a core process and not a support process. So depending upon the operating core or the what actually creates value for the organization, they or what primarily they are into, accordingly we define whether a process will be considered as a core process or a support process. Processes can be broadly categorized into continuous process, semi-continuous, intermittent, as well as project. Now, when we talk about intermittent, it further gets classified under two. One is a batch process, the other is a job shop. The other classification parameter can be either as an intermittent processes or repetitive processes. Intermittent processes are those which are basically they occur, or they those are the processes which are carried out once or twice depending upon the requirement, but they are not repetitive in nature. Okay, so uh, we can say manufacturing of drugs. So it is actually manufactured in batches. So these are intermittent processes. But when we talk about repetitive processes, that means something which is being done on a continuous basis. Okay, for example, if we talk about uh, manufacturing of diesel, petrol, so these are actually done in a refinery. So it is refined crude oil. These petrol, diesel, these things are actually refined and extracted from crude oil. So it's a continuous process. It will keep on it will keep on happening regularly. When we talk about repetitive processes, these are some activities which are being done again and again and again. So what example that we talked about refinery, we can put it in the form of we can classify it under repetitive operations. uh, Continuous will go under that. Project is also one of kind of, so that means every project is going to be different. So again, this will not be a either continuous or intermittent. It would be either happening, and again, if it is being done at that time, either the business scenario or the business scope or the project scope, all those things would be different. So there is a possibility that we may be talking about the same activity being performed. For example, if I talk about manufacturing a bridge at one location and manufacturing the same bridge at another location, both are projects, and both the projects cannot be termed as same project because of changes in terms of the business requirements, the environment in which it is going to operate. Okay, so these are going to be treated as different. Intermittent processes are those which are actually being repeated depending upon the requirements. Continuous processes, they will keep on happening. Okay, so intermittent processes, they stops at regular intervals of time. In case of intermittent processes, product requires processing on variety of machines. Products made are of different varieties. Production process is slow as compared to continuous or semi-continuous processes. One more thing that I would like to talk about is in terms of the cost of manufacturing. When we talk about continuous processes, the cost of manufacturing is quite low, quite less. But in those kind of things, the capital they are these processes are capital intensive, uh, and they operate on a continuous basis. Very rarely they stop. They are actually stopped specifically for maintenance or some other kind of activities only. Else they are on continuously. That means 24/7. Job shop is also a type of intermittent processes wherein similarity may not be there between two jobs. Okay, but when we talk about batch processes, there is a similarity between two batches. Uh, as I have already discussed, projects are unique in nature. One, when we talk about customer, normally one customer at a time. Uh, Demand is infrequent, volumes are very low, number of different products is infinite. Infinite means I mean to say every product is going to be different, so we cannot actually quantify them. uh, Different type of equipments may be required. Type of work would be majorly contractual in nature. Skilled experts are actually required, or in case of projects, it's a custom work. Disadvantages is that it is non-repetitive and having very small customer base. Moreover, it is expensive. Examples include construction, that is real estate, shipbuilding, planes. Okay, these are basically projects. When we talk about batch, here quantities would be there. That means every batch will be comprising of number of items, but having same specifications. The demand will be fluctuating demand. Volumes are from low to medium. Number of products would be many, and it can vary from batch to batch. Okay, but variation is not much. It's a general purpose equipments are basically used in this kind of process. Even these are a bit expensive, but the advantage is they offer flexibility in terms of accommodating different batches of products. It is slow and difficult to manage. Examples: printing, bakery shops, baking baking activities, machine shops. These are basically under batches. Even we talked about manufacturing of uh, medicines. Those are also done in batches. Not only just medicines, but also FMCG products. Okay. Uh, when we talk about mass manufacturing, they are very much here. The objective is not just directly the objective is to take advantage of the economies of scale. It is definite that the demand for the product is definitely there. At times, since the manufacturing process would be much faster, so you will be manufacturing and you will be stocking it. Depending upon requirements, the stock would be moved around. Demand is quite stable in nature. Volumes manufactured are higher. Number of different products is few. It is very much repetitive in nature and basically uses assembly lines. Here, the assembly lines are basically capital intensive and very mild changes do take place, that too depending upon the quality requirements only, in case if the quality requirement changes. Else, they just follow the same manufacturing cycle again and again. Automobiles is an example there. Consumer electronic goods are another example which you can actually look at for mass manufacturing processes. Continuous are very much a commodity based product. Continuous processes are used for commodity products. There the customer is a mass market. That means it is being given across to anybody and everybody, and there is no variation in the product. Okay, the demand is quite stable, volume is very high, number of different products is very minimal, and uh, again here also it's very capital intensive. Processes are quite efficient but with large capacity. Examples: paints, chemicals, food. We also talked about petrol and diesel. Okay. When we look at this kind of processes, so when we talk about job shops, they are suitable for handling larger variety of products as compared to batch processes. Products are different and have different processing requirements. It may require different machines and different sequence and also different processing times. The batch size varies from large number of different units to a small size of a single unit also. Uh, Example product served in a restaurant. So variation can be seen in those cases, but they are also manufactured in batches. It results in low volume, costlier products as compared to continuous process. Continuous process, in that you have basically semi-continuous also, which are also termed as line processes. So normally assembly lines are covered under line processes. We don't call them completely as continuous because uh, when you are producing one set of products in a line, after that you switch over to another set of products or another model of the same product. Okay, so that's the reason there is a setup uh, also required. So change over time. Okay, so here the concept of SMAD also comes in. Uh, Rest you may please have a look at. In case it is basically extension of the earlier slide itself. Majority of the things have been covered. Some examples have been given to you here in case of batch, additional examples, and that is bakery, batch of salted biscuits, chocolates, medicines, etc. Here, after every batch process, all the equipments are basically cleaned and are used for the and are made ready for use for the next process, next batch. When we look at their relationship between manufacturing of a product and delivery of a service, okay, so it is quite similar in nature. If you look at, that's the reason why we have actually put up both the things here. When we look at the product volumes, okay, in case of a project process, the number or quantity of product or volumes are quite less. Another example would be tailoring. That means it's a custom manufacturing. Okay, so custom job shop constructions. These are specifically related to customers requirement, and matching to the customer requirements becomes the most important aspect. But when you are actually making one or two units of it, so that means products are not standardized. That means the same thing cannot be used for other products for manufacturing the same thing. There will not be any similarity between two products which are being manufactured or made. So here even product standardization would be low. As we move along, so batch processes, here similarities can be seen between products made in the same batch, but it may not be the same for a different batch. So products are standardized within the batch, but outside the batch they may not be standard. Product volumes are higher as compared to a project. But if we talk about volumes, still the volumes are on the higher side, but not on the very high side. Okay, when we talk about line processes, here the products are quite standardized, as well as the process is also quite standardized. The volumes achieved are much higher. Okay, for example, if we are talking about a company manufacturing products all across, so say a manufacturing of an automobile, so all the one model of product will look exactly the same, even if it is manufactured uh, on another day also. Okay, so that is line processes. Okay, so product standardization is higher, much higher, as well as volumes are also high. When we talk about continuous processes, the volumes are very high and it's continuous in nature. The product standardization is also very high. On similar lines, when we look at the service process matrix, there are four aspects to it. The way we talked about the product, you had project, batch, line, and continuous. Similarly, here we have uh, service factory, service shop, professional service, and mass service. Here, if you look at these two, project process and batch processes, these are very much intermittent in nature. But if you talk about line processes and continuous processes, these are repetitive in nature. Uh, in case of service process matrix, what varies is the degree of labor intensity versus the degree of interaction or customization for the customer. When we talk about service factory, the degree of interaction with the customer and degree of labor intensity is quite low. For example, when we are talking about a fast food restaurant, we are not making as per customer. We are actually offering him what we already have in our menu. Okay, but the same thing when we talk about a restaurant, there there is a customization. Okay, so degree of customization would be higher when we talk about a restaurant, but not a fast food restaurant, a regular restaurant. Okay, in case of a fast food, the products are quite defined. For example, if you talk about burger from McDonald's or pizza from Pizza Hut or Domino's, so the quality is very much defined. What they do is they give you flexibility in terms of how much oregano or chili flakes you would like to add. So depending upon your taste, you can do that. But product in itself is very much fixed. So there, the degree of interaction with the customer is also low. If we talk about service shop, an automobile garage, here the degree of interaction is high, but the degree of labor intensity is quite limited. Okay, repair services, large hospitals, the work is very much defined kind of. Okay, so uh, interaction may be higher, but degree of labor intensity is less. If you look at mass services like retailing, education, wholesale businesses, then the degree of interaction is low, but the degree of labor intensity is higher. When we talk about professional services, these are the areas where the degree of interaction as well as the degree of labor intensity is very much on the higher side. A very good example of legal services are of professional services would be legal services, beauty parlors, personal taxation uh, consultants who basically give you that kind of services. So if you look at it, this is how the product versus services will vary. The processes related to product and processes related to service offerings. Continuing our discussion from the previous slide, we'll observe that standardization across professional service, service shop, mass service, service factory would be higher in case of a service factory, but will be lower in case of a professional service. When we talk about volumes, this would be the volumes in case of professional service would be less, and in case of service factory, it would be highest. When we look at products also, So there, our processes can be looked at as projects or batch production or mass production or continuous production. When we talk about continuous production, your uh, products would be quite standardized. Not only just your products, but also your processes would be very standardized. Very, there will not be any flexibility, and here flexibility would be very high. When we talk about volumes, in case of projects, the volumes are very low and are the maximum when we talk about continuous production. So as we move around from projects to batch, batch to mass, and mass to continuous, the volumes also increases. If we look at this product process matrix continuum, uh, here we have put up automobile manufacturers, then photocopier manufacturers, automobile retailers, restaurants, banks, airlines, consultancies, undertakers. What is what you can observe here is, in case of automobile manufacturers, here what is more important is the product. As we move across along this timeline, what is happening is product importance of products reduces and importance of services is increasing. When we look at always whenever a customer buys a product, he doesn't buy only just a product, he buys the services too along with it. So different industries, different products, what is happening is, in some cases products is of prime importance, in some cases services are of prime importance, but in reality you will always find that products are always preferred along with the services. Now, in some of the cases, services would be uh, will not be that important, but in some cases, services will have importance higher than the product. Okay, so uh, this is an NPTEL video link which I would like to share with you. This has been a wonderful resource which you can look at. With this, we come to the end of the first topic. Thank you very much. In case of any doubts or discussion required, please connect with me. Thank you.